Hey, it's Dr. Glenn Livingston, author of Never Binge Again, here with another tip to help you stop overeating, stop binge eating, and reprogram yourself to think like a permanently thin person on the food plan of your choice. Well, one time when I was a young psychologist, I was trying to do everything by the book. And my book said that you're really not supposed to talk about yourself and you're supposed to reflect things back to your patients. And I had this young, feisty girl that I was working with. She was 16 years old, and it was just before Father's Day. And she came in and she said, hey, Doc, what are you going to get your father for Father's Day? And I said, by the book, well, you know, it's really more important that we talk about you, and there must be a reason that you're asking that question. Are you thinking about getting your dad something for Father's Day? What does that mean to you? Try to put it back on her. And she said, no, I really need to know, what are you going to get your dad for Father's Day? And I said, well, you know, we're really not here to talk about me. You're paying me for the time, and we're really here to focus on you and, you know, see what this question means to you. It obviously means something really important, and I don't want to take that away from you, so let's talk about what it means to you. And she folds up her arms like this. She goes, look, Doc, I am going to count to 3. By the time I count to 3, if you have not told me what you're getting your dad for Father's Day, I'm going to stand up and bitch slap you. And I kind of looked around and I said, well, I told her what I was going to get for Father's Day. And after I told her, she wanted to know 1 or 2 more things about my dad. And then out came this outpouring of emotion and, conversation, which was really very meaningful for her about what she was going to get her dad for Father's Day. Now, I'm going to tell you another story. There was another woman, an older woman in her late 30s, early 40s, who was a model, very, very pretty woman. And this woman tried to seduce me. She came in progressively shorter skirts. She kept asking me to have a big long hug at the end, which she knew that I did everything in words and reflected things back to her. And in that situation, I did not take her up on the loss of parameters because it seemed like the dangers were much too serious. And so what I learned from kind of comparing and contrasting those 2 stories, when I talked to my supervisor back then, this is when I was a young psychologist, and I had lots of supervisors and lots of people to talk to about what was happening to try to figure out how to be a better doctor. What I learned was that there are certain parameters that you strive for as an ideal. There is an ideal set of kind of like your North Star that you're always striving for, which you know exactly when you're within the bullseye, when you're not. And then there's a circle around that, like the archery target, with another set of boundaries, which says, well, if you have to fall out of the bullseye, then this is the set of boundaries which you're going to keep to. And so I was willing, in some circumstances, to fall out of the boundary that said you never talk about yourself. There were some situations, and I've since learned that when people are positively identified with me and they're kind of stuck inside of themselves, that sometimes instead of pushing them to figure it out themselves, if I lend them my ego, if I share with them how I solved a problem, then they can identify with me and they often can solve it better themselves. But I was not willing to go so far as to allow physical contact, especially with a seductive young woman. And how we can translate this to food is you have your ideal set of food rules. You have the ideal way that you eat in virtually all circumstances. But once in a while, you're going to find yourself in a restaurant. Once in a while, you're going to find yourself in a social situation. Once in a while, you're going to find yourself on holiday or with a family member. And if you think through beforehand, where is the second rung around that bullseye and where the boundary is for that second rung, then you won't be allowing your inner food demon to run wild and just shoot all the arrows off the target. And so what you want to do is very carefully go through all of these exceptions and then try to delineate exactly where that second rung is. And in some situations, maybe even where the third rung is around the bullseye, where the third ring is around the bullseye. And you want to articulate when you're willing to do these things. For example, I said I am willing to stray from my personal philosophy about treatment when a patient identifies with me very positively and I've found that it's not possible to get them to solve the problem themselves. Just like a personal trainer might actually lift up some of the weight for their patient, for their client, if the client was feeling too weak to do it themselves. I'm willing to do that with my clients from time to time. What I'm not willing to do is cross any ethical lines or any real physical boundaries that I feel would be irreversible with those clients. And so with food, it might be, for example, that, well, I will only ever eat chocolate. This is not me personally, but I will only ever eat chocolate at a social event when someone else offers it to me, and no more than once per calendar month. Or I will only ever allow myself to eat bread in a restaurant and no more than once per calendar week in any scenario. You identify where it is and you articulate the wrong. You've still made all your decisions beforehand, so your inner food demon is not running the show. But you're recognizing the complexities of life, and if there are some situations where you do need a loosening of the rule, where you might have to shoot for a slightly larger bullseye. I hope that helps. If you'd like more of my personal help to customize your food plan and stop binging, stop overeating, and stick to the diet of your choice, please visit fixyourfoodproblem.com or click on the link below. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, where we have all sorts of additional tips and tricks and videos and audios coming up soon. Okay, thanks. Go ahead and click the link.